type of commercial vehicle parking. It is not a major issue that we're dealing with at the moment statistically, but we do work closely with the other departments.
No, I appreciate what you're doing, and it is a bigger issue, and I think we'll have to come together by coordinating our resources. Thank you.
Councillor Wolf?
Thank you, through the chair. Just a couple quick questions. First off, on our CS 17 under short-term rentals, the graph there, it's another month with a really tall green line, or green bar, to show that there's a lot of short-term rental calls for service. On the next page, it mentions we have dedicated temporary full-time staff resources monitoring this. My question is, are we fining and recouping some of the costs, that expenses? Because if we look at page 20, we see, not 20, 22, we see the property use, revenue, and expenses table, and they don't add up, where our revenue is a quarter what our expenses are.
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, there's an anticipated deficit that's actually budgeted there. If you look at the variance between the budgeted and the actual far supersedes that. Mm-hmm. So we're actually ahead of our budgeted. So bylaw enforcement is not cost neutral in many circumstances. Mm-hmm. It's always useful when we can recoup revenue. There's a number of reasons why, particularly when we're dealing with homelessness, there is no cost to be recovered through that. Nonetheless, staff do have that ability to recoup revenue, and at times that revenue collection may take months, as there is a period through which payment can be made, and if there is court action, it could even be years till we collect the actual revenue.
Then just to follow up the point then, if we've had 536 short-term rental violations to date, how many fines have we had to date?
Well, as of what we're reporting for the month of, in this question here for October, there are 536 year to date, which far exceeds, to my knowledge, any city in the Lower Mainland.
Okay, my next question, on page 18, the soil activity. I'm familiar with all the properties that have stop work orders. I go by them weekly. The one I'm not clear with, because it's a PID number, Granville Avenue, could you explain that one?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, there's a stop and work order removal for that for soil deposition. If the committee would like more information of that, I can report back via memo.
Is it exceptional, or is it just kind of a typical?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, I think this is within the scope of what we generally deal with, so I would constitute that as typical.
Thanks.
Thank you for the information. I think it's helpful for us to understand that there is a cost to enforcing these. I know that, you know, when we see $700,000, it's significant, but is it worth it? I think we've heard enough from a lot of our community that they want this thing looked after. They want short-term rentals to be policed, if you will. You know, we also spend millions on our tree bylaw. That's definitely not revenue neutral. We spend a lot of money on that because we're interested in looking after the trees. So anyway, Councillor Day?
You know, I just listened to CBC radio today, and that short-term rental ticketing was exactly what they were talking about. And they brought in AI to actually identify a huge amount of short-term rentals. And I think it was Kimberley. At any rate, when they started identifying them and sending them letters, that's all they did was send them letters. 90% of them ended up being long-term rentals afterwards because they didn't want to get ticketed. So when you see a number like that, which is the highest in Metro Vancouver, that's something to be really proud of. And it just means we're on the right track for getting them shut down and turning them into long-term rentals. And I can send you the link to the show if you're interested in hearing it. It was really interesting.
Okay, do we have a motion? So moved. Second? All in favor? Thank you. Fire Rescue Monthly Activity Report. Not yet. Yes. Come further down. It's item number 8.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. I have nothing further to add to my report, but I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Any questions? We have a motion? Second, all in favor? Thank you. Fire chief briefing.
I have nothing to give you as a verbal this afternoon. Thank you.
What? What about the pumpkin toss at the end of October? That's not nothing. Okay, Councillor Galanders.
I could add, this is about October, right?
It is
October.
So how was Halloween for us this year?
through the chair to Councillor Galanders. Halloween for us, we were very fortunate for a number of reasons. It was a weekday. Of course, there was lots of public awareness campaigns prior, and so our call volume was relatively typical for a weekday evening. We did respond to a number of fires, but they weren't significant that evening.
Good to hear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. RCMP monthly activity report.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. I don't have anything to add to my report, but I welcome any questions or comments anyone may have.
Councillor Day?
I thank you for coming. On CS 52, we get the quarterly crime prevention newsletter. And I have to tell you, of all the things I send out to citizens, this is what gets the most feedback from ordinary, everyday citizens who really appreciate the information. What I didn't know is that tech-savvy thieves can pick out certain details when you're away, and they can use GPS to find out where you are, what you're doing, and basically make you a victim, and we can turn that off. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I didn't even know that existed.
Yes, through the chair to Councillor Day. With the advancements in technology, if there are individuals, if they're able to have connection or contact with their phones, and sometimes there are devices that can be monitored with AirPods and all of that stuff. So there's lots of clever techniques that are being deployed by individuals. And our job through our Block Watch and from our crime prevention folks is to educate the public that these type of risks are out there, and to be mindful and take those precautions.
Well, I think that's really informative. I mean, I'm sure there are especially a lot of seniors like me that would have no clue about any of this if you didn't tell us. So thanks for being a good provider of information.
Thank you.
Councillor Heed?
Yes, I wasn't going to let the chief get off like I did the fire chief. I wish I would have known, but anyhow. Chief, 12 robberies in October. What basically were they? Are they strong armings? Are they retail stores? What are we looking at?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, some of these robberies were committed by some of our youths. Typical, I should rephrase that, not typical, but random bear spray or pepper spray and just, like minor type incident, but still, it's a robbery. And we've had few other retail stores that have been targeted, but our property crime team, they have been engaged with not only with the businesses, but also looking at in profiling if we have repeat offenders who are committing these robberies, and then we are taking targeted enforcement towards them.
Okay, and the other, and my last issue is the shoplifting, 135. Is that based on some enforcement or just some increased awareness to report it?
To the chair, to Councillor Heed, Richmond, along with other municipalities, continues to see an increase in shoplifting. And we have planned operations, which we continue to conduct. And just before this report came out, about 2 weeks after, we had a shoplifting operation that was conducted similar to what Burnaby or VPD or Vancouver does. And because the because we are seeing an increase in shoplifting, and it obviously impacts our citizens and our businesses, your police force has also enhanced their efforts in having more targeted operations, and there's another one that's going to be executed here in the next coming week. But as I've stated earlier, in the past, that some of these individuals who are committing these shoplifting crimes, obviously, is due to the economies or the socioeconomic factors, and there are individuals who are, some are from Richmond and some are from other municipalities. So it is an issue that continues to impact our city, but we continue to remain proactive, engaging with businesses in coming up with theft prevention strategies, and at the same time conducting enforcement operations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion. Second, all in favor? OIC briefing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one thing here. I was here last year around the same time, speaking about the efforts from Richmond RCMP and our RFR friends and other members of the community in raising funds and collecting toys for the children and families in Richmond. Last year, it was the Dunk the OIC contest, and this year, it was more jail and bail type of scenario. But the event went really well, and this year, and as we had done last year, we beat previous year's record, and this year we beat last year's record. And I'm very pleased to report that this year, through the collective efforts of everyone, we collected 2.3 tons of toys. So that's 4,670 pounds, 1,000 pounds extra compared to last year, and 29,000, just over $29,000 were collected as well, and as well as 535 pounds of used textiles for Salvation Army. So a lot of timing and planning went into this event through our members and our partners with Chief Jim Wishlove's team, their assistants, and other partners and members from the community and volunteers. So great event, and hopefully it'll make holidays a little lighter and brighter for many kids and families here in Richmond.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And much warmer than being in the dunk tank. Councillor Hobbs.
Thanks, and through the chair, yeah, that was a great event. Just wanted to comment on it. You got a break with the weather. And I think the increase in funds is probably because, like my grandchildren, they donated money to keep people in jail. So it wasn't to get them out. So I don't know about the bail part. It was really well done. It was
Yes,
nice.
thank you.
And I'd also like to congratulate you on blowing up the internet. So back in October, you got people talking about pedestrian safety, and I understand it was over 10 million views. So congratulations. When normally 500 or 600 views, you'd be patting yourselves on the back. This one, almost every fourth person in Canada must have seen it. So.
Thank you. That was a very impactful video, and we are working on another one as we speak for preventing theft from autos. And so the challenge to the team was that we want to get more than 10 million hits with our new production. So we'll see how that goes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Richmond traffic intersection cameras. Mr. Liu, Mr. Capuccinelli-Arachi.
Through the chair, nothing further to add, but available to answer any questions.
Okay, I'll put the motion on the floor then. I'll move the motion. Do I have a second? Okay. Any discussion? Councillor Galanders?
Thank you through the chair. Yeah, so when this motion came forward, we had talked about upgrading our existing intersection cameras to become high definition so that we could potentially solve crimes. The rationale for this was that we could we could have caught a shooter that left YVR and went down Sea Island way many years ago. This report is showing that we are not able to upgrade our existing intersection cameras to be high definition, that we would have to purchase, in order to do all the intersections, we'd have to purchase brand-new cameras, a brand-new system, $6.6 million. And that we would be the only jurisdiction in Canada to have this technology. I think that we're a very safe city. I think that we're quite small. I don't think we need to lead the country in being the premier police state with the most high-definition cameras. And I think that we are in a housing crisis, we're in an opioid crisis, we're in a climate crisis, we're in a homelessness crisis, and the thought of spending any money on installing more cameras so that we might solve a once-in-a-lifetime crime seems ridiculous to me. And I would hope that the rest of council would see that since we can't upgrade our cameras, that was the original motion, that we should just put this aside for now.
Councillor Heed.
Yes, I'm going to take a contrarian point of view on this particular issue, and not to alarm the public, if there's anyone watching, is we're not spending $6 million. We haven't agreed to that. We're not doing that. We're talking about a phase-in system here. We're talking about ensuring that we have a safe community, and we should be the leaders in Canada on making sure that we have a safe community. And whatever we can do to enhance the safety of the people that live, work, and play in Richmond should be taken into account. So I don't want people to be alarmed thinking we're going to go out and arbitrarily spend $6 million on trying to catch a once-in-a-lifetime criminal, when in fact we're not. We're ensuring that we, not only from a preventative point of view, but if in fact we have these shootings that do take place, and we've had actually several in the last few years take place here in Richmond, that we have the ability to solve the crime. And coming from this particular background, when you have that piece of evidence available to start your investigators on quality leads, in the outcome of the investigation, you are going to have substantial savings. So let's not forget about that. And I just don't want the public to think that we're going off and just agreeing to a $6 million expenditure for something, when in fact, we're talking about a phased-in process that council will discuss, and the fact that we should be leaders. We should be creating the safest community for people to live, work, and play in Canada.
Councillor McNulty.
Yeah, just to sum it up, I follow along that. I agree. There's no reason to be alarmed. I think with the motions that you're putting forward, I think anytime you talk about safety and invest in safety is the best thing we can do. And that's our number one priority. And the fact that we're looking at taking all the resources that we can to continue to make Richmond safe. We already know we've got a fairly safe community, but we don't want to sit and live on our laurels. We need to be preventive and proactive rather than reactive. And we got two former police officers right here on council helping us, and we've got out here. So it gives us the information and gives the public the information, and I think it allows us to lead. But we've got to give that perception and continue to give that perception of feeling safe in your own community. And we know we are safe, but we also, there are many people, as you know, when we get high water, people think, oh, the dikes are going to break. Well, no, the dikes aren't going to break. We've done a great job. We've taken that proactive, we put lots of money into it, we're continuing to do it, and it keeps Richmond safe. So I think it's apropos that the two motions go forward.
Councillor Hobbs.
Thanks, and through the chair. It is about public safety, and with respect, I'll take issue with comments about police states and that kind of thing, because that's not what we're talking about. And you're not talking about once-in-a-lifetime crimes either. You're talking about serious crimes that would be indictable offenses. It might be a sex assault. It might be a robbery where somebody's severely injured. It could be a homicide. It could be different types of serious crimes that cameras could be very useful for. So, and the other thing is, it's not something that police have access to on a willy-nilly basis. It's all done through court production. It's all done with judicial authorization. So it's not that somebody's going to be sitting there monitoring a camera 24 hours a day. That would be impossible. So it is about solving crime. It is authorized by the courts, and it is about public safety. So with respect, people can have different opinions, but I don't think it'd be a police state because it is done with court oversight, as are many other search warrants.
Councillor Wolf?
Thank you, Chair. I'll just have a few things to say on this one. So I'm informed a little bit today because I spoke with some staff at the Office of Information and Privacy Commission. And yeah, I got a better sense than what was in the report. For one, the report talks about the benefits, but it doesn't mention any of the challenges or the disadvantages. So I wanted to kind of find out what are cases where the commissioner in the past has put municipalities or TransLink or other places on order and made municipalities take down their equipment and render them useless, to decommission their equipment. Very costly. The legal battles that get drawn out. It's in law for the commissioner to have the authority to do things, and they could do them well advanced of us getting down the path and spending a lot of money, which might be better than us going ahead with this. So I think, as Councillor Galander said, better to push this aside. Some of the disadvantages that I've listed, I won't go into depth because I mentioned them last time this item came forward. Privacy concerns. The details of lawful daily activities from our citizens would be captured. Data security risks. There'd be breaches. There always are breaches we hear on the news. There's unauthorized access that occurs. There's misuse. There's abuse of personal information. Profiling that occurs. Unwarranted tracking. Civil liberties would be infringement due to constant surveillance. There's accuracy and bias, facial recognition technology, AI. Not saying it's in the report that it would be part of this, but if we're getting the latest, greatest Ultra 4K technology, it would be an easy add-on at any later date. That would lead to further misidentification and impact innocent individuals. Community trust, this is the one I'm most concerned of. That without clear justification, the erosion of trust, we'd likely see the citizenry have resistance and increased skepticism between themselves and the authorities like the RCMP. That would not be a good end result. Legal, ethical concerns, they're expensive, complex, I mentioned, subject to public debate. Any image that would be captured on these cameras would be freedom of information-able. So anyone from the public would be able to seek that footage of themselves going through that intersection, and the administration costs tied to it. And the person wouldn't be prevented from doing it again, third, fourth, fifth time. It would just be an inexhaustible long-term cost and impact. Just got a few more points here that I'll make today, because if this goes to council, I'll have a lot more to say then. So I'd like to know who's getting shot in our intersections. We heard a whole list of noteworthy files in the previous RCMP report. I didn't see anything there mention things happening at intersections. So I don't see the need, unless we're Chicago or someplace overseas where this is happening, and maybe there's a warranted reason then. Okay, but it clearly doesn't here now. I also take issue with the quote that's included in the report on page 60 from the OIPC's letter to Mr. Brody, or Malcolm Brody. What was missing was the sentence before that for the quote, and it said in that line, the city must, in other words, have direct authority to collect every item of personal information that it wishes to collect and cannot purport to somehow incidentally collect personal information for which there is no collection authority in the first instant. So we're setting ourselves up here to have a legal challenge. I don't think that's a valuable use of our tax dollars with all the other challenges and disadvantages that come with this. I also take issue with the table on page 62 that's saying traffic intersection camera video footage request is increasing. Yeah, what was going on in 2021? People were at home because of the pandemic. And yeah, as people have been driving more, there's been more people having incidents in intersections. So it clearly doesn't go far enough back before the pandemic to maybe make this useful data. And finally, I also take issue with some of the things listed that the OIPC did not give adequate consideration for. In there, it lists that there exists a lower expectation of privacy at traffic intersections. I don't know who's saying that. I don't see people saying, oh, well, I'm in an intersection, photograph me, share information with me. Maybe in other parts of the world, you can travel, I haven't traveled, but you can travel around the world and see photos of poles at intersections with like 4 or 5 or more cameras on them. Maybe in those places they have a low expectation of privacy. Right now, here we don't, and I think we would start to have that. This would be that would be an effect of going ahead with this costly program. Then I think maybe I should almost stop there, but I'll just say that the significance of storing this Ultra HD, these files, is, again, inexhaustible of resources, because to have it, we've had a little comment there about should it be more than 10 days. Think about the energy used to keep these servers running and to store them. It's not fathomable. We don't, at least for me and the average person, the amount of money that we would put into this. And at that point, I think MLA Watt had a thing in the paper saying nobody feels safe in Richmond. And I don't know, maybe that's the case if this is what we need.
Councillor Day.
You know, obviously a very complex issue, but I'm reading the motion again and again to understand what it is that this committee is voting on, which of course I'm not a member of the committee, so I can't vote. But I understand the motion is to make a copy of this report available to the Officer of the Information and Privacy Commissioner of British Columbia, Minister of Public Safety and Solicitor General, and members of Parliament and members of Legislative Assembly. There's no action that's proposed at this time. It's just sending this information that has been collected by staff to the powers that be, and that's not us. So if that's all we're doing, I certainly would not support, spending $6.55 million on, fancy cameras on every corner, but I don't think that's what we're proposing today. That's just a general information that's in the report. So I wouldn't have any opposition to this going to the groups that I just mentioned. And if it came to a budget process, I'd have a lot of questions about the cost. Thank you. Councillor
Heed.
Yes, and I just want to make some final remarks here because I've listened to this, and Councillor Wolf, very well-informed individual. I'm just wondering if you read the report and understand the fact that it's a judicial order required for this. There's no way on the FOI you're going to get the information. We're talking about serious indictable criminal offenses. We're not talking about everyday traffic people. We're not talking about anything like that. We're talking about whether it's an abduction of a child, whether it's a serious criminal offense that takes place. And Councillor Wolf, the technology is utilized for people fleeing the scene of a shooting, not necessarily capturing an actual shooting. However, we did have one not too far from here, just off of Granville, which I'm sure had we had a camera there, we could have caught it. But we have to be clear on the facts that staff has presented here. We don't have to go on these theories in our own mind of what's going on. And Councillor Day is correct in what we're actually voting for here. We're not talking about the conspiracy side of things. So I think it's clear that we all operate off the same set of facts that council, or that staff, I should say, has presented to this committee.
Thank you. Yeah, I have a comment too, actually. I think we all felt our phones go off on Saturday and there was an Amber Alert. I think the week before, there was a 12-year-old and his father were murdered, potentially in Richmond. I have a 12-year-old. His dad's about that age. If that had been my family, I would want those cameras, and I would want the ability to find whoever did that. And I think that's where people are. So I'll be voting for it. So we'll put it on the floor. Second? Second. All in favor? Okay, all those opposed? Councillor Galander's in the opposition. Managers report. Thank you. No, hang on, hold it. What's happening?
To the chair, just one quick one. We are hosting the Integrated Team Advisory Committee meeting at City Hall tomorrow, so you will see up to 25 external folks. Some would be in uniform from ERT team and such. Nothing is happening at City Hall. They're just here for a meeting.
Thank you. Councillor, hang on, hold it. Councillor Heed has a question. Comment?
Yes, I'm just wondering if there's staff can provide an update where we are on discussion we had on the sex trade occurring here and some of our property use and business licenses.
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, staff did conduct an operation of the two of the licensed businesses, and along with the RCMP, business license inspectors did find some violations. And we are proceeding our policy of conducting inspections for those licensed businesses to see if they are in compliance with our bylaws. And to date, staff have not conducted any operations regarding underground operations, as that type of sex work is, that type of commercial enterprise is part of the criminal code, and it would be to the law enforcement such as police to prosecute under the criminal code. By law enforcement staff are limited by section 1.2 of the bylaw, enforcement officer bylaw set by council to enforcing city bylaws within the boundaries of the city, not the criminal code. So our strategy from the bylaw enforcement and business license inspection at this point is to make sure that those 6 businesses are operating as per our business license and business regulation bylaws. In addition to that, regarding escort services, escort businesses, there are none that are currently licensed in the city. And it's important, as a point of clarification, those types of escort services are for social engagements. Those are not part of sex work. So there are no businesses that we license in the city that partake in sex work, because that would be contrary to our bylaw, that would be contrary to the criminal code. If a business is operating in violation of the criminal code, staff can come back to council with a show cause hearing and remove that license.
So I guess my discussion on this was under property use and open source information. Certainly one can spend a few minutes going over it and find out that there are many what could be referred to as common body houses that are operated here in Richmond. The information that I have is, for example, in one tower, you've got 5 different units that are controlled by a certain segment that is involved in it. So, and I can understand the impact it has on the police resources, but I think we've got to be very strategic and utilize what we have here. We keep complaining about short-term rentals, but if you looked at the amount of sex trade workers that are working in private residence in our towers here, I think you'd be very alarmed. And I'm not, this is all open source material that anyone can actually find. So thank you for the update. But I think we've got to, work together, the property use, the bylaw, and the police, to get a handle on this, because it's ever increasing. And I do get the the negative emails from some of the people in the industry, and I guess my point is I'm trying to go after the ones that are taking advantage and sexually exploiting these women, the ones that are involved in organized crime, the ones that are involved in human trafficking. I understand there's a percentage of them that are trying to support themselves, and yes, those aren't necessarily the targets. The targets are those human traffickers, the organized crime groups that are running several of these body houses in Richmond.
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, business license and property staff do work closely with the major crime, organized crime portion within the RCMP detachment. When we do encounter any suspicious evidence that may say there's a nexus to any criminal activity in the course of their duties, my understanding from the RCMP is that is their focus primarily is on these underground commercial sex work enterprises where there is a potential nexus to organized crime. That's where they're prioritizing their resources. When it comes to the era of the licensed businesses, where there isn't an apparent any criminal activity going on, business licenses and properties will take the lead. Police will accompany to maintain the peace in those investigations.
Councillor Al?
Yes, I have a question totally not related to this topic. Now, I don't know if staff can give us any update about the illegal car hailing situation in Richmond, because we learned that there are operations like that in Richmond, and also from the media, we at least we read stories about the legal operators are being pushed out because of those illegal activities. So, do we have any information about what the situation is in Richmond and what is the provincial government doing?
Through the chair to Councillor Au, the RCMP business license, the Commercial Vehicle Safety Enforcement Branch, even transit police do work in conjunction to enforce provisions, rules and regulations and laws against illegal ride-hailing. You must be a licensed ride-hailing business to operate. The Passenger Transportation Board must license you, and there is the Commercial Vehicle Safety Enforcement Branch is the lead agency. We do work very closely with them. My understanding is that the legitimate businesses continue to operate. I'm not aware of data to suggest that they're losing market share to the illegal businesses. My understanding is that the numbers of pickups and drop-offs are healthy within the city. But we do closely work together and we meet on a regular basis.
Thank you. One further question. When you go into the businesses looking at the body houses, if you will, do you take any support workers or information for the workers to get out of the system or support them in any way?
To the chair, for the body rub, those are legitimate businesses, so those would be businesses where they can continue to operate, where there are, as part of our bylaws, each operator must be registered. And in one of the instances, an operator was not, a person working there was not registered. So that was why a violation was issued. So everyone that is there is a legal worker and has gone through a criminal code background check.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Move adjournment, thank you.